Hi everyone, I'm Vivek. If you are struggling to understand Salesforce integration patterns, you're not alone. Today, I'm going to simplify the concept of inbound versus outbound architecture with real world examples. In this video, we will cover integration from Salesforce point of view, where one system is Salesforce and the other system can be anything. And what are the steps you need to take for inbound and outbound integration? In this video and examples in this video, we will use auth protocol for explaining the connection between Salesforce and the other system. Auth protocol is the global standard for authorization. There are also other ways to connect Salesforce using SOAP API, login call, username and password plus security token flow, but we are not going to focus on that. Auth is the modern approach and most of the systems support auth integration. And most important, you don't have to share your credentials to the external system. First, let's discuss what happens behind the scenes. When you request a connection between a client to a server, you need to pass certain details to authenticate yourself. Let's take an example of browser and Salesforce. In a way, what's happening between browser and Salesforce server, you can also call this as an integration, where browser is the client and Salesforce server will act as servers. In your browser, when you enter a specific URL, enter the username and password, and when you hit login, it goes to the specific server for authentication. The authentication server here verifies your identity. For example, if there are 3 users in Salesforce server, which are Maria, Joseph, and Rahul, and if you don't enter credentials which are associated to any of these users, your authentication will fail. And if you enter the right credential, which is matching to one of these users, the authentication will be successful and you will get a session ID. This whole process is called an auth flow. There are different type of auth flows, but primarily the concept remains the same. The first step is the authentication and the second is authorization. Authentication validates your identity or the system identity, and authorization validates the access for that particular identity to a particular resource. So this is the basic concept of integration connection setup. Let's look at from the Salesforce point of view. Let's first discuss about inbound integration, where a system X wants to connect to Salesforce and make callouts to fetch and update the data in Salesforce. First and foremost, you need to set up a user in Salesforce. And then you need to set up specific permissions to that user using profiles or permission sets. Usually, integration users are no UI users. That means they are not going to access Salesforce via the browser using UI. They are only used via integrations. So Salesforce has a specific integration profile which you can use to set up this user. And if you have a user who is going to access Salesforce via the browser as well as integration, then you can use a different type of profile. Now, since auth is a mechanism of connecting Salesforce without sharing the credentials, you need to set up a entry point, which is a connected app in terms of Salesforce, where you are going to create a connected app, enter basic details, enable auth settings, provide callback URL, select the auth scopes, and save it. You can also add additional details if it is required for your integrations. After saving, click on Manage, Edit Policies. You can change here details like IP restriction, refresh token policy. In the option of permitted users, you will see 2 options. All users may self-authorize and admin approved users are pre-authorized, which basically means if the user is in control, for example, when you log into Facebook and you enter your credentials, you authorize yourself. In that case, you use all users may self-authorize. But if it is a system-to-system connect, where the user intervention is not possible, you use admin approved users are pre-authorized. Once you select the admin approved users are pre-authorized, you will get additional option in your connected app like profiles, permission set, and custom attribute setting, where you can specify which profiles or permission sets are pre-authorized. Once your connected app is ready, you will be able to get your consumer key and consumer secret key. Now, for the external system, you need to provide certain details like your Salesforce instance URL, your token URL, client ID, client secret, and the callback URL. Remember, different auth flows has different configurations. They might have additional parameters in the request URL for the token. In the response, you will receive your access token, which is the session ID equivalent. These access token you can use to make a callout to get a specific resource from Salesforce. For example, let's get an account or a customer with the customer ID. In the header, you just need to pass a parameter called authorization bearer access token. This completes your inbound integration flow with Salesforce. As a general practice, you create multiple connected apps for multiple systems to connect to Salesforce. That way, you have a single entry point and you can on and off the integration at any point of time. Now, let's look at outbound integration, where Salesforce has to make call out to an external system to fetch certain data. In outbound integration, you need to follow multiple steps. First, we need to set up an auth provider. Auth provider is nothing but any system which supports auth protocol. In Salesforce, if you go to setup and auth providers, you will see some common auth providers are already listed, like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and so on. If your system is not in the list, you can select OpenID Connect. OpenID Connect is nothing but a protocol which support auth integration. In this, you need to enter your name, URL suffix, consumer key, client secret, authorization endpoint, and token URL. There are additional information like scopes, custom error URL, or logout URL. You can enter them as you need. One important thing to see here is registration handler. This is used for single sign-on, where the user is logging in first time in Salesforce, automatically the user has to be provisioned, which means user will be created in Salesforce for single sign-on setup. You need to specify the Apex class here, and the second option where execute registration as, you also need to select which user. Normally it is the admin user. You select here from which context the execution will process. Once the auth provider is set up, you need to go to name credentials, go to external credentials, create a new external credential, specify the authentication protocol. Here you need to select Auth 2.0. As you can see, there are multiple authentication protocols which are also supported. Since we are focusing on auth, we will select auth. In the authentication flow type, you can select anyone based on your integration type and auth flow. For this example, we will select browser flow, and after selecting the browser's flow, you will have the option to select auth provider. You can select the auth provider which you just created and you save your external credential. Now, in your name credential, you need to specify the external credential which you created, enable for callouts, and you save it. As soon as you save it, based on the configuration, the system will prompt you to authenticate from the other system. If the authentication is successful, you will see on your name credential authenticated. Now, you can use this name credential in your Apex using a specific syntax or external services. External services are a way to make callouts without writing code. So this is a topic on its own. If you are interested, please let me know. So this covers basic overview of integration with Salesforce. Remember, this session does not cover the auth flows in details and integration patterns. We will look at these topics in detail in the upcoming videos. Please like and subscribe if you are interested in such topics.